Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today we're doing the what's next on former junior welterweight champion Sergey Lipinets. Now, Lipinets returned to action and returned to the 140-pound division when he main evented the August 20th Showtime card and stepped in for Adrian Broner to take on former lightweight champion Omar Figueroa Jr. And you know, Figueroa was the A-side coming into the fight because of his name, but he's a faded former champ, and Lipinets went in there and just pretty much beat him down. You know, Lipinets took the fight on about 6 days' notice, but was already supposed to fight on the undercard. He stepped into this one without any fear and returned to 140, and he looked damn good. And if you remember, I just want to be clear, Lipinets only lost to Mikey Garcia at 140 pounds. He's only lost 2 fights in his career now to Mikey Garcia by a clean decision, but that was at Mikey Garcia's height, you know, of his dominance when he was really a pound-for-pound guy. And then he moved up and made a career at welterweight because he had to, because the World Boxing Super Series didn't take him as a, you know, an option back in, I believe it was 2018 when that whole started for the season 2, and they selected they did not select Lipinets to join the tournament. So Lipinets, with most of the best fighters fighting in the World Boxing Super Series, and then the other guys that were left were pretty much with top rank, he decided to move up to 147 and make a career and test it out there. But he was always an undersized welterweight, and then he ran into, you know, a big puncher and Jaron Ennis, and a guy who's probably going to be a middleweight someday, and he got his ass whipped last year. But you know, nothing to hang his head about whatsoever, as he, you know, went out there and retained his you know, stayed the world, or got back into the mix comfortably as the, you know, as a contender at 140 pounds. So this was a big win for him. I was very happy to see him get out there and get back in competition. I don't like when some of these Russian guys that are really good, they're former champs, and because they don't have a big name, or European guys, because they don't have a big name, they don't get the same opportunities, and they just kind of get thrown under the rug. So he got a nice opportunity, he took advantage of it, and now the big question is, what's next for Sergey Lipinets following that win? We're going to run through the top 10 and see. We start with number 1, undefeated WBO champion Josh Taylor. Taylor has lost all his belts, and he's really, I think it's 2 fights, and then he's moving up to 147. He's fighting Jack Catterall in a rematch in I believe it's November. They're planning on fighting, and if he defeats him, he's likely gonna fight Teofimo Lopez. He's got ties to Top Rank. There's no way that Taylor's gonna fight Lipinets. I don't see it. Next is Teofimo Lopez. Not seeing this one. Lopez was with Top Rank, Lipinets is with the PBC. Lopez has options, you know, not this one just doesn't make sense for Lopez. It would if they were, you know, if they were with the same promotion, but because they're not, he just has other better options that he can take. Number 3 is former champ Jose Ramirez, former unified champ. Well, Ramirez is with Top Rank, but that's irrelevant because Ramirez is taking most of the rest of the year off to marry his fiance, and then he's in line to fight the winner of Zepeda and Prograis for the WBC title. So not going to happen with Ramirez and Lipinets. Then you got Jose Zepeda. Zepeda is a Top Rank guy, and if he defeats or loses the Prograis, not likely that we're going to see Zepeda against Lipinets. Next is Regis Prograis, the former champ. Well, Prograis is kind of wide open, but he has ties to the PBC. If he becomes the WBC champion, he still has to fight Jose Ramirez in his first time out, his first fight out. So I don't see him fighting a guy like Lipinets in his next one after Zepeda. So I'm going to say no to that. Then you got Jack Catterall. Jack Catterall's with the Zone and Matchroom, and if he defeats Josh Taylor in their rematch, I see, it depends on how close the fight is. We could have a third fight coming down, but I also could see him fighting. I also could see him fighting somebody like Catterall. Catterall's gonna stay with the Zone even if he loses. So I don't think a fight with Catterall and Lipinets is gonna happen next. Next up is Gary Antoine Russell. Now here's a very, very good possible next opponent. The reason being is, I know a lot of people want to see Gary Antoine Russell fight for a world title, and now the PBC has a world title and a world champion with Alberto Puello, who defeated Batir Akhmedov. But what people don't know is that Puello has to fight Ismael Barrasso next. There's two mandatories due. They had the vacant title fight between Puello and Akhmedov, and then you have the Barroso fighting the winner. So that title's still tied up. And, Gary Antoine Russell is trying to be, they're trying to feed him the right opponents. You can't get more right as long as Lipinets is ready. You can't get a better opponent than Sergey Lipinets for Gary Antoine Russell, as long as Russell is ready. And I think that fight makes a lot of sense right there. A lot of sense. Because they're both very solid fighters at 140. And it's a highly competitive bout. They're both with the PBC. Very makeable. I definitely could see that fight going down. After that, you got Victor Postol. You never know. Postol has pretty much fought everywhere. I think he's down to fight with the PBC. He could fight a guy like Lipinets, but that's two European fighters going at it. Is that the right matchup that people want to see right now in the United States? I'm not sure, and I'm going to lean towards the less likely that goes down. And then after that, you just have to you look at Jose Pedraza as a top-ranked guy. He's got options with top rank. They're not going to lock up Lipinets and Pedraza. And then you got Richard Comey, same thing. He's with top rank, and he's going to have other options with top rank, so they're not likely. And then any other guys like Puello and Akhmedov, after their showdown that ended with a very close split decision, Puello is going to move on and fight Ismael Barrasso next in a mandatory fight. Batir Akhmedov would make a lot of sense for Sergey Lipinets if Akhmedov wants to return following a close defeat like that. I think that's very, very possible. So there's a lot of options on the table right now. There's also one I'm leaving out. The winner of Ponce and Sergio Matias are fighting, and the winner of that fight, if Matias wins, he's a PBC guy for sure. Ponce, I'm not sure where he's, what promotion he's with, but if Matias walks out the IBF champion, he might, be down to fight the former IBF champion, Sergey Lipinets. So Lipinets definitely has options following that big win over Figueroa. I really believe wholeheartedly that the most logical opponent next is Gary Antoine Russell. The PBC is really trying to push him. They want him to fight for a world title, and they would love to get him one or two belts around his waist, and the PBC is kind of in position to make these fights happen. As long as Sergio Matias defeats Ponce, and he's with the PBC, or if they can sign Ponce to a deal, the winner of that fight could eventually fight either Gary Antoine Russell, or, we could be seeing those two belts getting unified, the WBA and IBF belts getting unified by the second half of next year and controlled by the PBC. And Lipinets is a very good opponent for Gary Antoine Russell while he awaits a title shot. And a title shot's right around the corner. It basically lines up perfectly for him to go beat two former guys, former champs, like he's done, Gary Antoine Russell and Victor Postol, and then he followed it up with his last win over Rances Barthelemy. If he steps it up and defeats another former champion, Lipinets, who's on the level and coming off a big win, and then can go into title shots, that sets up Russell nicely. But we don't sleep on Lipinets. I'm just saying he's a good roadblock for a guy like Gary Antoine Russell. So we're gonna see what happens. But that's what I got. That's what's next on Sergey Lipinets. If you enjoyed the video, smash the like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been here with the truth.